All right, welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom, to another KC Sports Report live stream. I am your host, Michael Darcy, and today I'm joined by Lucas Murphy. He hosts the Beat of KC, and we're going to preview the Chiefs and Bills game on Sunday Night Football. But first, Lucas, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad I'm back.
Yeah, back from the dead.
Yeah, man. Holy smokes. I did not know what was going on, but I feel fantastic, and I'm ready to talk some Kansas City Chiefs for sure, man.
Perfect. And for people who don't know, Lucas was down with an illness, but glad he's back now. But let's talk about this game because there's honestly a lot to it. The Bills have been for the past couple of years a pretty big threat to the Chiefs in the AFC, and this year it's no different. You know, they won their first. Actually, they lost their first game to the Steelers, and I was like, all right, maybe we're all right. Maybe the Bills have kind of fallen off a little bit, but I was very wrong because they won the last three games. 35-0 against the Dolphins. Tua got hurt, but that's still a very impressive win. They defeated Washington 43-21, and they defeated the Texans 40-0. So they have the blowout power the Chiefs seem to not have. But, you know, we're going to have to see how this Chiefs team is against this Buffalo team because Buffalo has looked very, very good over the season so far. And I would even say that they've been better than the Chiefs so far. And you can look at their record, you can look at their point differential, you can look at all of that. But this is the game where we find out what this Chiefs team is made of. I think that if the defense is going to show anything in any time, they've got to do it in this game because this could potentially mean something further down the road in terms of playoff seeding or maybe even who gets into the playoffs. I mean, heck, there's three teams right now in the AFC West that are making the playoffs. So that's just kind of my initial thoughts. But Lucas, what are you thinking?
Man, you know, I've done a ton of research on this one just because I'm not gonna lie, I'm extremely nervous just strictly because of this defense. And man, the Chiefs have lost a couple games based on their own mistakes. And to be honest with you, man, I think the only way the Buffalo Bills, end up losing this game comes down to them making mistakes. I mean, if you really look up everybody they have, I mean, they're solid across the board. They have a two-headed monster, very similar to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they have Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. They have a tight end that's been doing very well in Dawson Knox. Their receiving group is just insane, and Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley. I mean, then they got Josh Allen. And then, to go on top of that, this defense, you and I both talked first overall. So it's going to be a tough challenge. I mean, one positive thing, in my opinion, we have going for us is the fact that it is in Arrowhead. And I think that you have to at least consider that as an element every time. It may get to Josh Allen. It may get to some of the guys, but man, it's going to be a tough game for Kansas City. And, I told you before we started this, it's almost like the Chiefs are going to have to play perfect on offense. And if they're punting the football, I just feel like you're going to have to kiss this game as a loss. And, one thing, I was looking at some of the stats and I ended up taking the over. I was going to ask you on this and I forgot to ask you pre-live stream.
You're good.
The over-under is 56.5. Are you taking the over?
Oh, I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over right now. If the Chiefs want to have any chance to win this game, they've got to put up 40. Like, let's be honest here. And I think they can put up 40, and Buffalo's going to have to at least put up 30. We're going to easily pass that point spread, I think.
And another thing, too, like to go on top of that, I mean, I hate to say it, but they almost need Josh Gordon. Like, just the presence of Josh Gordon on the field, I think at least takes some of the pressure off of, that. I mean, the defense is just insane on their side of the football. I mean, Tre'Davious White is one of the best corners in the NFL. Jordan Poyer is just a smack in the mouth type of player. I mean, that their linebacking group is going to be able to stay with the running back. I mean, there's just so many guys that it's going to be a tough challenge. I do think our offensive line might be able to hold up a little bit, and we might see Clyde be able to run the ball, but it's going to be interesting to see how, Travis Kelce performs. Are they going to double on Kelce and let Tyreek run free? I mean, those are the types of questions I have, but man, I think that this is definitely going to be a challenge.
See, I was talking with Dan Mitchell, who's a Buffalo Bills YouTuber. He's a good channel. Go check him out if you haven't. And this was last year after the Chiefs beat him in the AFC Championship game. He's basically like, the only way you can beat this Chiefs team is with offense. And the Buffalo Bills offense is explosive. It's potent. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. And that just makes me very, very scared as a Chiefs fan, knowing this defense ranks 31st overall in the league. You're only ahead of the Seattle Seahawks. That's not good. And over the past couple years, we haven't had an elite defense, but a defense that could at least be middle of the pack, like 17, 18. They can get the job done. I don't know if this defense can get the job done. I mean, what do we qualify as a success? Giving up 25 points? Like, where is the success, or where's the line drawn? Because they could limit the Bills to like 25 points, but if they give up 500 yards from scrimmage, you can't win this game. And the Chiefs are averaging giving up like 367 yards a game. You are very fortunate you are 2-2 right now. I mean, that's just kind of where we're at right now. And the Bills might expose us. I hate to say it, but they could very easily march into Arrowhead and absolutely kill us.
I think, I'm always the optimist. I'm optimistic in everything Kansas City sports. And I think if the Chiefs defense is to be successful, they need to at least take one element away. Do I think that they're going to take away the passing offense of just Josh Allen and everything I listed before? No. I mean, I think that they could potentially, reduce it, but I don't think they're going to limit it. I think if they can limit the run game and find a way to force them to throw the football, then at least that they're running, or they're having to throw the football, and then you can game plan for that. But if they're dicing us up with the run game, and then they're able to just carve you out with the pass game, man, it's just,
yeah.
I mean, that the thing is too is, like, I was looking, Josh Allen just goes, and like if he doesn't see anything, he just goes downfield and just can run. I mean, it's just incredible, like how dynamic this football team that we're going to be facing is going to be. And then that's, I'm sure they see it on tape. I'm sure they've studied it plenty. We obviously beat them in the AFC Championship. We played
them pretty handily.
Yeah, and we beat them in the rain too, like up in Buffalo. So we have the upper hand, but this year it just seems like it's a little bit different.
And Baltimore beat us the first time that they've ever beaten the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. We could be looking at the first time Josh Allen gets a win, because this Bills team is really, really good. I would not be surprised if they won the Super Bowl. I mean, they have basically very few holes. I don't even really know what their holes are. Maybe can they stop the run?
I mean, they're pretty solid, man.
I was gonna they're
Matt
they don't have
Milano
any
up the middle. I mean, they got some guys. AJ Klein's there. Not that he's a great linebacker, but yeah, I mean, they have the ability to. I'm pretty sure.
So they're pretty solid everywhere. And if they do have a weakness, it's not like a big gaping one. And I think that, going over to the Chiefs side of the ball, the Chiefs defense is going to have to make a stand tonight, or Sunday night. I don't know what day it is, but the Chiefs defense is going to have to make a stand. If we want to see this team have any chance in the postseason whatsoever, you've got to show something against this team. And I think that kind of starts with drawing up more blitz packages. Let's be honest, our front four can't get pressure. And I think that, why kid yourself? If you know what the problem is, you can help better diagnose what you could do differently. I mean, heck, L'Jarius Sneed, I think it was our leading rusher last week up until the fourth quarter. Yeah. Like, you've got to find a way to supplement your blitz packages with your front four, because I think that, I don't know if Spags has done this in the past. I think he was very blitz oriented. Like, they blitz a lot of the time. I think that with your front four being as pitiful as they are, I think we should blitz on every other play. Like, that's how much I want to see this Chiefs team get after Josh Allen, because it's not even a Josh Allen thing. You give any quarterback in the National Football League a prolonged period of time to sit back there and find their receiver, they're going to do it. This is the NFL. As I think it was Urban Meyer said, in which he's in some trouble right now, but every week it's Alabama in the NFL. Every week you're playing a team that has the capabilities to beat you. And this team, the Bills are going to give the Chiefs a run for their money. But, I'm seeing on Twitter, it's just like Patrick Mahomes is going to play his A game. Like, you're going to get to see elite level Patrick Mahomes because he knows that this defense at this current moment in time is not any good. And so he's trying to supplement that with putting 42 points up a game. And I think that they can. It's just, can they limit the turnovers? I mean, we've seen over the past few weeks, even in the losses, they probably wouldn't have lost those games if they didn't turn the ball over. If they don't turn the ball over in this game, it's going to be close, but I think the Chiefs will win this game.
I think that, man, I just hope they don't put enough pressure on Patrick Mahomes where he feels like he has to do that, because I think when we see that, a perfect example was the Chargers game. I think that he felt that pressure, and that one play where he kind of just throws the football comes out because he's trying to force it, because he realizes this defense, this defense is not good. So
yeah.
I just hope that it doesn't put them in a bind where they force that, because I think if Patrick Mahomes makes a mistake in this game, it just can't be undone. I just don't feel like it's going to. And like years prior, like, when we played the Texans and we were down 21 points or whatever it was, I mean, that felt like just a blow, and we came back from that. Like, I'm not saying our offense can't do that, but I don't feel our defense is going to be able to hold that. And I think that's the biggest concern for me, is you just don't have that much faith in, people kind of are criticizing Spags and, how his scheme is and how he, the same thing was being said for Bob Sutton as well. And I just think it comes down to player personnel and what you're putting out there. And, in some facets, I just don't think that you're at the best that you possibly can be at, because, I mean, we finally saw Dorian O'Daniel. I mean, I don't know if you noticed that, but Dorian O'Daniel was actually out there. And like, I think they're just trying to figure something out because it's just not working.
And speaking of Dorian O'Daniel, relating to the linebacker room, we should be getting Willie Gay back this week.
Yes.
So you're going to add Willie Gay. You're going to add Josh Gordon. And I honestly, my expectations for Josh Gordon when he's on the football field are to at least be a productive wide receiver. I'm not saying he's going to be the Josh Gordon of 2013 where he went all pro, but he doesn't have much tread on the tires. And I think that if he can just stay out of trouble and stay healthy, he'll be a great option.
Yes.
But, I was thinking about this the other day, and I want to get your thoughts on this. If this Chiefs defense does not improve, and let's just say this team gets, with Patrick Mahomes, they might win a playoff game with this defense, let's be honest. But let's say they get bounced in the AFC Championship game or the divisional round or whatever, and it's because of the defense. I think you've got to do some firing. Like, let's be honest here. They had every opportunity to do something and change it, and they didn't. And that was in the offseason. They had an opportunity to sign Jalen Smith or trade for Stephon Gilmore, and they didn't. Now, Stephon Gilmore I get because he's getting up there in age and he's also expensive, but Jalen Smith, you could have basically given him a vet minimum and he would have come. Now, I understand that throwing a new player into a scheme isn't a good thing because it takes some time to learn it, but this defense isn't any good right now. What do you have to lose? Like that's assuming you have a good defense.
Yeah.
Throwing a guy out there that might not entirely know the scheme, but offers something more in terms of improvement, I would take. I really would, because I think that the Chiefs have a lot of instances on this team where they value certain personnel over other personnel. Now that I think about it, why do they play Ben Neiman over Dorian O'Daniel or Dan Sorensen over Juan Thornhill? It's because they think that they're better players, but the talent evaluation isn't there. Like, let's be honest. But what do you think? If this team loses in the playoffs, do you think that there's got to be some big changes made?
I would say yes, but I almost think you would probably go one more year. And the reason I say that is because you are coming off of a year where you won the Super Bowl. You went to the Super Bowl and lost. The year before that, you were in the AFC Championship. We don't know the end result of this year. Like you said, if we go to another AFC Championship and lose, I mean, you're getting basically to the final stage.
Yeah.
I think, and again, I know that we're only in week 5, but I think it all comes back to Brett Veach's ability to be a GM. And I'm not saying he's a terrible GM, and I'm not saying he needs to be fired, but I really think some like thorough like you need to look at what he's done, not you specifically, but like we need to look at what he's done
Yeah.
because he's not putting good talent out there. And it started, I have my notes. I think it was 2020. 2020 is
Yeah.
where it started for me from a free agency standpoint. And since that point, outside of this year where we just unloaded on offensive linemen, it's just been awful. And you have to be able to plug in good veterans with young talent in the draft. And neither of those in from 2020 have been, it just didn't happen.
See, I will
And
say this though, Brett Veach, like let's look at it from his angle. The Chiefs have made the AFC Championship game for the past 3 years. They've gone to back-to-back Super Bowls. He's probably sitting up there in his office like, what more do you want me to do? Like
well,
that is incredible.
I agree with you, but
Yeah.
from his as a GM in the NFL, you're not trying, and in this case, everybody has the same salary cap.
Yeah.
And so the thing is you're trying to create longevity. So your whole objective is to win Super Bowls and win as many as you possibly can, but you're also trying to create the longevity to go to as many Super Bowls as you can.
Yeah.
Well, at the rate that he's going, yeah, even though you have the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now, and you have probably one of the best offenses, you're lacking in defense, and it's going to hinder you potentially getting to that point. So I think that that's where that needs to be evaluated. You've missed on a ton of defensive players, trading for Frank Clark, signing Reed, because Jerron Reed has done nothing
Yeah.
in my eyes to this point for anything.
Yeah.
Anthony Hitchens, is what it is. I'm not going to discredit Hitchens, but in the Honey Badger, obviously he's doing his thing. But if you really evaluate what he's put out there from a defensive product, it's just not good. And I think that has to change. I don't know if it has like an emergency reaction, like the same way he did with the offensive line, but I almost would say that has to be done. And Frank Clark can come off the books next year. Anthony Hitchens, I believe, can come off the books next year. So
Anthony Hitchens is just done next year, I believe.
Yeah, so like it's just going to be interesting to see the response based on your original question, the response of if that happens, how he reacts, because he has to be aggressive, because then to me, all the fingers start pointing at him.
And and this is such a weird angle because I've never really hated on Brett Veach because it's just like, whoa, like this team has been to the top of the mountain back-to-back years, and 1 month or one year they were able to get over it, and then 1 year they just fell barely just short. So it's kind of hard to be nitpicking, but at this point, the defense overall of the stretch has not been good. Like, let's be honest, in Brett Veach's time, this defense has never been good, but I think that's because they possibly value offense too much. And, I think that this is a point that I actually meant to hit on, but I didn't. Josh Gordon's signing is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I like it, but that's not the problem. Like, let's be honest. The significant problem is the Chiefs defense. And so to outsiders, they're like, why are you getting more offense? Like having Josh Gordon, even if we get 2013 All-Pro Josh Gordon, that doesn't change the fact that he's not out there hitting guys on defense. That doesn't change the fact that your defense is giving up 31 points a game, or maybe even more. They're giving up the most amount of points in the NFL. You cannot win games like that. I don't care if you have the Legion of, I don't care if you have the greatest show on turf for the 2018 Chiefs offense. Ultimately, both those teams fell short. Like, let's be honest. Or did the Legion, not the Legion of Boom. I don't know why I had that in my head. Did the greatest show on turf, because they won one Super Bowl, but they lost the second one, I think.
Yeah. Well,
the Patriots.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know, because, technically, I don't know. That's not really important. I don't know why I got off on that tangent, but yeah, I think that offense is great. Don't get me wrong, but offense is not what this team needs.
I think Josh Gordon will provide an element that just his presence, and I think seeing him work and run routes in practice and just he's chiseled again. I think
Dude, he is
they legitimately
huge.
said like 7 or 8% body fat. Like he's toned up and ready to roll, man. Like he's been working out, and
Yeah.
I think he has the ability to really kind of cause some issues. But again, you're almost flipping a coin. Like I said, it's like you can't. You're almost putting so much pressure on this offense to score every single time in some facet, whether it's a touchdown or a field goal, and that's like what it has to be. And I think at some point, you know it. I think to me that almost was exposed against the Eagles. I mean, it was. The Eagles continued to pound it, and Jalen Hurts played a hell of a football game, and like Devonta Smith goes off for like 170, and like played a heck of a football game. Those tight ends. That's going to be my biggest, honestly, to kind of tie that in. My biggest concern, truthfully, is going to be who covers Dawson Knox, because
Yeah.
I think that there's a chance he might actually go off for the Buffalo Bills, because while you're probably running nickel a lot of the time, covering every one of their guys, who's going to cover the tight end? And I think that he's going to, chunk off yards, and he's very, very good in the red zone.
Yeah.
Him and Josh Allen connect a ton in the red zone. So that's going to be kind of my biggest concern. We've stopped a red zone team once or twice.
Yeah. And really quickly, I wanted to address this super chat. Shout out Billy Scott. I really appreciate it. And yeah, the Bills could kill us this week. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like I'm not one to say that the Chiefs are unbeatable anymore. Because I was listening to Petro talk about this on the radio. The Chiefs don't have the same fear. They don't invoke the same amount of fear that they have in the past. Like I remember last year, if you went up against this Chiefs team, they were going to beat you. Like that's just kind of what it was. And it almost looked like they were unbeatable last year. They won 15 games and they chose to lose the last one. They could have gone 16-1, or I get 15-1.
Yeah.
And the fact that this team no longer has that is something to be kind of concerned about, because teams don't have that same fear. They're like, all right, they're just the Chiefs. Like we can go in there and beat them. When I feel like in years past, they've been like, oh no, we can't beat this team. Like we're going to try, but we can't. And I don't think that's there anymore.
I was just trying to figure out myself, though, what truly changed is what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
that's exactly what I was thinking. And that's okay. I said this coming into the season. I thought this was the deepest Chiefs team that we've seen in the Patrick Mahomes era. And people now are obviously clowning me, but that wasn't even that bad of a take at the time. You signed Jarran Reed. You were getting all these guys back. You put together a good draft class, in my opinion. Maybe you lost Bashaud Breeland. Like, there are
but that's not the problem. Breeland wasn't in resolving the whole issue.
Exactly. There's something that's going wrong. And maybe it's that they're just trying to do too much defensively, and they just need to just make it simple and get that down. But there should be no reason for this struggle. Like, this team doesn't have that much turnover.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it all comes down to not being able to apply pressure to a quarterback. And it doesn't matter. And like I told you beforehand, it doesn't matter what corners you have out there. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, maybe, but outside of that, man, like the receiver knows what route he is running. The corner is expected to react and then be able to play defense. If you give a quarterback, a professional NFL quarterback, specifically in this case, Josh Allen, the opportunity to just sit back there and survey every one of his options and then literally dissect this defense, it can happen because you're not applying pressure. And that's comes down to everything. I mean, it's going to happen with Derek Carr. It's going to happen to the worst of the quarterbacks out there. I mean, it'll happen just because you're not applying pressure to a quarterback. And at the end of the day, they need to find out how to apply pressure.
And I think that, again, it all comes back to the blitz packages. I think Spags needs to have the mentality of, hey, we might not be able to do it with our front four, but we're going to kill you. Like that needs to be the mentality, because let's be honest, this Chiefs team and the Chiefs defense right now is soft up front, soft on the back end. They cannot stop anyone. And, I'm kind of worried because it's just like, was the Eagles offense that good or was our defense that bad? Like, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a mixture of both, but they need to find a way to make those adjustments. And I think that, give them a lead to play with. The Chiefs have had to come back, and I think every game that they've won this year. And there is no reason for that. Like, you have a great offense, and I guess maybe that's because they defer, and then the other team scores a touchdown on the very first drive of the game. But I think you've got to find a way around that. I like the idea of getting the ball in the second half, but I think that you got to set the tone early is what I'm trying to say.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm honestly hoping, and I really truly hope that they defer this game because, man, if you can find a way, like let's say the Bills are winning like 14-3 or something, kind of very similar to how the Chargers game was going.
Yeah.
And if you can find a way to at least, I guess, score going into halftime and then you get the ball back, at least there is somewhat of a chance that you could fight back and come back. But man, I this is like one game that I hope the coin flip goes Andy's way and he defers just because, yeah, if they do get the ball, they drive down and they score, at least there's a chance you could compound maybe back-to-back touchdowns to do something because I think that eventually could be a key to this game is just winning that coin toss.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I would love to see a game in which the Bills don't make any mistakes and the Chiefs just find a way to hold it down. Because then at that point, there are no excuses. There aren't but Josh Allen threw an interception or he fumbled the ball. They don't have that if the Chiefs defense clamps down and like maybe gets a stop or two. That's all I'm asking. You get 1 or 2 stops, you'll win the game. Like as long as the Chiefs don't turn the ball over 4 times. But if you get the minimal amount of turnovers needed or get any turnovers, you'll probably win the game and just get a stop. That's all I'm asking. It's not even that difficult. Just get a stop at any point in the game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, if you honestly look, if you went down and compared each position, I mean, Josh Allen to Patrick Mahomes, I would obviously give it to Mahomes, but Josh Allen is easily right there as a young quarterback. It goes all the way down to even kickers, man. Like Bass for the Buffalo Bills is very solid, has been just doing very good kicking for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, we have Harrison Butker, who's a very good kicker, as long as you're not talking extra points sometimes. But
yeah, I don't think he's missed an extra point this year.
Knock on wood, we've been doing pretty solid. So,
say it.
Yeah, hands down, I mean, across the board, this is a very even matchup, except for the defense. And that's what it's going to come down to, man. I think, I can't remember which game I said it this year, but I think special teams is going to play such a big role even in this game. Because I just think like, a muff punt here or like a doink field goal here could play a huge, I mean, it's going to be such a significant, any points scored is just going to be needed.
And I hate to say it, but we don't really have a good special teams. Like maybe in terms of tackling and getting downfield, but I think that we could definitely get a better return man. Yeah. I don't think Byron Pringle's been that good. Like realistically, I think that Mike Hughes probably give you the best chance, but I don't think our special teams has been all that good recently.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, especially when you got to determine if you're gonna fair catch and within the 20, you're gonna take it out of the end zone. I mean there's just a lot of things.
Yeah, honestly, I'm reading this comment by Marlon. If I could talk to the Chiefs defense, I don't know. I don't even know what I'd say because how much of this do you think is an attitude? Because I'm reading some of the other comments.
Well, the thing is if you watch, and I mean, a perfect example would be tonight because I was watching the Rams play the Cardinals, and those two teams were literally smacking each other in the mouth. I mean, they were legitimately like cracking helmets, blowing shoulder pads. You just don't see that with this Chiefs team. Like you may see it here, or maybe there, but oh my gosh, they were like just ripping helmets. I mean, those are like, it just doesn't have like that fierceness, like that, hey, I'm scared. Like I think the Honey Badger kind of instills some of that. And I think Chris Jones kind of hypes up, but I think deep down Chris Jones is kind of a softie when it comes to like the leadership aspect. Yeah. And I just think that you don't have like Frank Clark isn't the guy. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody's like, oh, he provides this tremendous leadership on the field. I don't think he provides anything at this point. I really don't.
6 sacks is just displaying leadership.
I just don't think you even like hit. I don't know how he would hype you up. Like to me, someone to take someone seriously, you would have to like look at like the Honey Badger, who's a 3-time first team All Pro. Like, if that dude's talking to me and like yelling at me, I'm listening to him. If Frank Clark's yelling at me, I'm like, go ahead and get your
Frank, go
blood
get
in
a
the water.
sack, bud.
Yeah, go get some blood in the water, Frank. Like, whatever, go do your thing. Like, that's the type of stuff that, like, and I just don't think you definitely don't have that Aaron Donald mentality. That guy, if you just watch him play, he'll grab somebody by the face mask and tell him to get in there, man. Like, you just don't have that. And you have that on the offense. I mean, you have it up and down the list. Like, Tyreek's like that. Travis Kelce's like that. Mahomes is like that. Even Clyde's like that.
Yeah.
I mean, man, it's just, softies, man.
And honestly, maybe they need to get back to talking crap, because they were very good when they were doing that. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to do, but could it hurt? I mean, at this point, you really can't get any worse defensively. Like, there just is there's nowhere else to go but up. And I hope that they do get better. But I think the dreams of ever becoming top 10 this year, those are gone. But I think that 17 to 19 would be the best case scenario.
Yeah. Well, and like you and I talked beforehand too, like, this is very different than baseball. And with like the MLB, you can make a trade and plug right in and you can play the game. That's what it is. Like, but with football, you're getting traded. You have to come in, you have to, learn the cohesion with your teammates, understand how they move. You have to not only learn that, but then you have to learn the scheme, the playbook. You have to understand, depending on what position.
Maybe they run a different base defense than you did in the. It's
different
just like
stunts, different, blitz pack. I mean, all kinds of different things. And it's completely a different aspect. So for them to go out and just make this monster splash at like the trade deadline or something, I just don't envision that happening. And I think that it just like where we're at is where we're at, and it's just like their handicap, man. Like, they're literally like handcuffed to the position that they're in with this defense. And I just don't see a miracle coming from anywhere unless they decide to start playing better.
I think that the one thing that they need to do, and again, shout out to Sren Petro. I was listening to him on the radio today, and he was talking about how at some point the Chiefs are going to have to put ego aside on defense, and they're going to have to bench some guys that maybe they wouldn't bench normally. And I think that, maybe you bench Frank Clark. I mean, I know you have to play to get benched, but, maybe once he comes back, you got to bench him for a little bit, or do something to put the best players in a position to be successful, because you need your best players to be good on defense. And the Chiefs haven't been putting those guys out. And I know Willie Gay has been hurt, but there is no excuse for Juan Thornhill not starting. I don't care what it is. And I think that, once the Chiefs figure that out, and maybe they have to move Chris Jones back inside, that gives them the best chance to win. And maybe they don't have anybody on the edge, but, at least you're getting that guy that is getting consistent internal pressure.
I think the biggest and everybody's hyped about Willie Gay coming back, and I'm super pumped too, but man, it changes a little bit of the element in the run game. And that's why I think too, that there's a chance, maybe we'll be a little bit better in the run game because you're getting Willie back. But again, it just depends on what type of defense we're running. If we're running nickel, then it'll be Willie and Hitchens. And then like, you're starting to see less of Bolton. And then on top of that, like, if you are running your base, then, I think it would be Bolton potentially, and then Willie, and then I guess Hitchens. And so in that case, yeah, I mean, you have a little bit better coverage, but man, it's just, again, pressure.
It's not the linebackers might not be the greatest. The secondary might not be the greatest either. But when you have the front four in which the Chiefs have, you cannot do anything. I think the Chiefs could win a championship with the back end of the defense that they have and the linebacking core with Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, and Anthony Hitchens.
Well, let me ask you this.
The problem.
Do you think that, let's say Frank Clark wasn't on this team, and let's say they plugged in a Khalil Mack, a Joey Bosa, or even just any of those types of guys, like not necessarily an Aaron Donald, because I would say we need more of a D end. Do you think that changes the mind, like just changes the entire outlook of this defense, or do you think that it runs deeper than that? Like, I mean, we keep talking about not being able to apply pressure, but like even a Von Miller, like say Von Miller was playing that D end spot, like is that individual going to make such a big impact that he changes the way this defense plays?
I think partly, yeah, because if you took out Frank Clark, who isn't producing, like, let's be honest, whether he's on the field or not, he's not producing. So if you have an area in which you could put a dominant pass rusher on the edge that could at least get home. I'm not saying you got to get 10 sacks a game, but if you're getting a guy that is touching the quarterback on every other play, or at least knocking him down, that's going to get in his head. And the Chiefs don't have that guy. Chris Jones on the edge has just been pitiful. Like, let's be honest here. He had 2 sacks, I guess, in the first game, but he's been pushed around. And I think that's because he's not a defensive end. And they just put him there because they're kind of forced to. But, I think that without Frank Clark on this team, you'd have money to go get someone that could at least be putting consistent pressure on the quarterback. And I think that, Dana would be the best guy coming off the bench. Starting, I don't know. I don't think he's a very good starter. Like, let's just be real. I guess he's got 3 sacks, I believe, or maybe it's 2 sacks.
3.
No, it is 3 sacks. But Mike Dana doesn't have the pass rush ability to get pressure consistently. He's going to get a sack or 2 here or there, but he's not getting home every single drive. Like, I wish that he would, but that's just kind of where we're at right now. And I think that, one pass rusher could definitely change this team a little bit, because they're going to have to focus on that pass rusher. And then that doesn't mean that means Chris Jones ain't getting double teamed. And we'll see. I mean, hopefully you could move him back inside if that was the case. But I think that a pass rusher would definitely solve this team's problems to a point. But again, I think that a lot of it's the mentality. They're soft. They're very, very soft. And unless that changes, you could put anyone out there, we're going to see the same result.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think if that's the case at some point, like I said, if we manage to get through next year and this team's still in the same position, even with maybe personnel change, I think then you can really address the fact that Spags just isn't it anymore and move on. And I think more importantly, like, truthfully, I think the defensive coordinator has such a tremendous role on this team, because I think Andy and Bieniemy are so like driven on creating cool plays and like focusing on the offense. And they really like kind of just, obviously Bieniemy, but more so even Andy just lets the D coordinator do his thing. And I think you almost need like and I'm not saying Spags isn't a leader, because I think he's a very good players coach, but maybe you just need one that is just like just a straight savage. Like, I would say like Robert Saleh is like
a Rex Ryan type.
Yeah, just someone that is just like a ferocious D coordinator that gets these dudes going, and like maybe they are ripping faces, just doing some crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I think Spags is an all right coach, but there's a reason that he really hasn't stuck around in very many places for very long. Like, let's be real here. And I think that he's just quieter than a lot of guys that the Chiefs have had. And Bob Sutton was the same way. He was just quiet, but I think that
was he awake?
He actually might get the Jacksonville job if Urban Meyer gets canned. It would be between someone else and Bob Sutton. And could you imagine Bob Sutton becoming a head coach in the National Football League?
I miss that face over on the sidelines when it's like sub 20-degree weather and he's over there just like
just like, dude,
are you awake, man? Like,
dude, we got to get him some pre-workout. Like,
hey,
wake
man,
up.
Hey, Bob, you okay? Hey,
Bob, you're like, you have made changes, right? It's just like he's asleep.
His card's just stuck like this.
He falls asleep just looking at it. Oh man. And honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. It'd be awesome to have Dee Ford on this team right now. Like, really, really awesome. I haven't heard where he is, or even
San Francisco still hurt. We won that deal like just insanely, man. Like, I don't think he's played more than 15 games since he's been there, and I don't think he's touched the football field this year.
Didn't we draft Snead with his pick?
I thought it was a second overall pick. So he might have actually been the was it the
Willie Gay pick?
No, I think it was the Thornhill or the Hardman pick.
Oh, well, and honestly, I think that I don't have a problem with how they're utilizing Mecole Hardman. If he's only getting touches in the jet sweeps, he's your jet sweep guy. Just make him into the best jet sweep guy you possibly can. It's just finding the guys and pinpointing their strengths and weaknesses and catering to that. If
Mhm.
Mecole Hardman is not good over the middle of the field, don't have him running routes over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's a balance of finding guys that can do the job that you need to get done, but also putting guys in a position to be successful. Because I feel like over the past couple weeks, the Chiefs really haven't put guys in a position to be successful. Like having Dan Sorensen in coverage or having Nick Bolton in coverage as a rookie. I think Nick Bolton's a good linebacker, but it's the coverage isn't there yet.
I mean, yeah, and I think he'll be good. I think he'll end up being a good player. I don't want to say he's not. I mean, he is just in his first year. But I mean, the thing is too is like as a GM and someone who evaluates talent the way he does, I think you had to know at some point, like, hey man, we are lacking in probably the defensive end spot. And as a fan base, we did it. You and I both did it. We were both hyped about Chris Jones kicking on the outside playing DN. And we got super pumped about it.
And who knows? Maybe if Jarran Reed pulls his weight, it's a great thing. But Jarran Reed hasn't pulled his weight whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I don't even know. Like, if other guys on this team pulled their weight, we probably wouldn't be as bad as we are. Because who has been the guy defensively that's been there week in, week out? Maybe Tyron. I
would say, yeah. I would say Tyron's had his moments for sure. Like as far as being very good, I would say L'Jarius Sneed, outside of maybe like week 1, has been pretty solid.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like, for the most part, I would even say your linebackers, like, and some people might blast me for that, but
I think Hitchens has been pretty reliable.
Been pretty okay. And then like, Bolton's played well for it being his rookie year. And, like I told you before we started this too, because we had a pretty decent conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the secondary has been bad. Like, because again, if you're applying pressure to a quarterback and you're making him force throws, I mean, there's been a lot of a lot of the times where they'll pan to like the play and the receiver's blanketed by one of our corners and they just make a tremendous catch.
Yeah.
But then there's also times where like when we were playing the Chargers and Williams is just walking into the end zone with like 10 yards of nobody around him. So, I really have to say, like, outside of like the Honey Badger, our safeties have just been terrible. Again, our front four has just been non-existent, and that's just kind of been the result. I mean, again, I just don't think you can pinpoint everything on even like corners because they're having to react and respond. And I think that they're doing an okay job. And until like, we just are getting just completely just annihilated from that aspect, then yeah, I would say the whole defense. But
think about it like this: if your front four cannot hurry the other quarterback's release, like if he's just sitting back there, that it's already hard enough to be a cornerback in the National Football League. You give a quarterback extra time to find his receivers who can literally just cut one way or do something unexpected, and the cornerback doesn't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But just giving him that extra time to at least let his receiver get open, we wouldn't be having that problem if the Chiefs' front four was getting to the quarterback and making him release the ball lightning quick. Yeah. I mean, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady was getting the ball out so quick in those.
Yeah.
And it's just like it was because the defensive line got pressure on him.
Yeah.
But this team just doesn't have that right now. And honestly, I don't think they have anybody on this team that is going to absolutely like wow me to the point of getting pressure. I think, and my biggest complaint, I think Taco Charlton being released was a big mistake. But I don't holding on to Okafor.
I just don't think he even applies anything because I just don't, man. Like, we don't have that freak of a DN that is just that guy. And Taco wasn't it for me, and there's a reason why they cut him. I haven't seen him do anything in Pittsburgh. And
I think he's on the practice squad in Pittsburgh.
So, I mean,
Pittsburgh's defensive line is insane. Of
Yeah.
course he's on the practice squad.
I mean, that's the thing is we have to be able to, at some point, you have to be able to draft a TJ Watt. You need to be able to, and I'm not saying be at that level of a draft because Pittsburgh has always they've always had a winning record up until this year. Like there's a chance that's at jeopardy. The Steelers have always drafted probably mid-tier to the bottom every time, and they found a way to get TJ Watt. They find ways to get guys that are just explosive on defense, and I mean their defense has always been solid. The Kansas City Chiefs draft guys like Breeland Speaks, who isn't even playing. Like those are the types of things to me that are super exposed because they envisioned Speaks being a guy that's like that. They envisioned Mike Dana to be a guy like that, but they're just not. And I get that it's all about evaluations and studying, but man, you got to at least get somebody. I mean, you have to get.
Well, I'm going to be real here. Mike Dana for a 5th-round draft pick has been all right.
Yeah,
but the thing is, how many good defensive lines in the NFL start a 5th-round draft pick?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's just that's the problem. They don't really have the personnel, and I think that they're paying Frank Clark to be that monster off the edge when he's really not been that guy.
Like, I mean, Kalen Saunders is expected to be he's drafted in the 3rd round, and you go out and get Reed because Kalen Saunders can't play D tackle. So your D tackle that you drafted with a 3rd-round pick isn't even a starter. Like I get not every player is going to be a starter when you draft them, but you at least have to expect like your top 1, your 1st to 3rd round players, at least your 1st round being huge contributors, your 2nd and 3rd basically being rotational guys. And like, yeah, we do see Kalen Saunders, but does he have that big of an impact to where we're like, oh, hey, Kalen Saunders is the man?
He's never shown anything that warrants him getting signed again. I mean, or even making the team. I think the only reason he makes the team is because he was drafted. I completely remember Cornell Powell. I completely forgot about him. You know, maybe when the Chiefs are having all these wide receiver issues, he would have been a guy to bring up. But I don't even know. Like, you know, it's crazy how this team is been so successful over the past few years, and we're here talking about all the negatives. But at the same time, like, we're both huge fans of this team.
Oh yeah.
And I think that we're doing this out of love. No, we're doing this because we know that this team can do better. And I think they have the pieces to do better. It's just they're not doing it. They don't need to be a defense that's top 5 or top 10 to win a Super Bowl. They've proven that. But the problem is when you have a group of guys that are severely underperforming expectations, that's the problem. It's not like these expectations are set at top 5 every year. It's just to be average. Yeah. And there is really no reason for this defense to be as bad as it is. Again, we talked about it. What is it? Like, what is going wrong?
Yeah. Man, I was going through the schedule again, and like, you know, we always joke about the NFC East being kind of weak, but man, we faced them. They got Scary Terry over there in Washington, and they've been playing good football. They got a great defense.
Their defense sucks.
Really?
Yeah, it's 27th, dude.
Well, Chase Young's flying off the edge, man. I mean, those guys, I mean, they have the ability to play. And I'm not saying they're going to beat us or anything, but we don't have an easy schedule, and we're going to be facing teams that have good offenses throughout the season. I mean, the Giants are even having a decent offense. I mean, Daniel Jones is low-key having a good season, and like you can just go through. I mean, look at Derek Carr. Derek Carr's having a great year. So you're not going to be facing low-end talent when it comes to offense. I mean, it's going to be a tough year on this defense, and either they're going to have to come together and play as a group, as a unit, or they're going to get picked apart every week, and this is going to be a struggle.
Mahomes should not have to be let me put the team on my back kind of player right now. It's week 4. I get that in the playoffs, like, hey, I'm going to take us to the promised land, but even then, you need your defense to perform somewhat. And, you know, getting back to this game at hand, I think this is going to be a real test, because if we see this Chiefs defense come out and hold this Bills team to, let's say, 300 yards from, well, we'll go 350 yards in total, which that would go for, let's say Josh Allen throws for 300 and they rush for 50, but you hold them to like 24 points. I think that's a win. I think it's a very big win.
Yeah.
But it's just like, can the Chiefs clean up on the offensive side of the ball? I think that they can. And I definitely don't think the Bills are going to have that lockdown defensive performance that they have in the past 3 weeks, because let's be honest, the Chiefs have had one of the most difficult schedules to open the season. They played the Browns, they played the Ravens, the Ravens look all right. And then we played the Chargers, who are going to be, I think the Chargers are going to be a playoff team, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they're going to make the playoffs. And then the Eagles, I mean, you beat the Eagles, but you should have beat the Eagles. So the Chiefs have had a really, really good first 3 games. And the Bills have had not very good first 4 games, actually. And I think that definitely beating those teams out of the water like they did is impressive, but it's kind of like the Steelers last year. You're beating all these teams, but let's be honest, you have not faced a good team yet. And we'll see what the Bills are like when they face a team with an offense that, might not statistically be number 1, but if you ask anyone in the NFL which offense that they would rather have, it's the Kansas City Chiefs offense.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this year is the type of year that like Mahomes would be an MVP just because he's forced at hand to, keep up. And I mean, he's got 14-4 already.
He's on pace for 60 touchdowns.
Yeah. He's 5th in yards or something like that, 5th or 6th in yards. I mean, he's going to be forced at hand to basically become an MVP again. And I mean, that's probably a good thing, but you would like to have a defense that's somewhat okay, I think. And I would much rather take a defense that's, middle tier and us win a Super Bowl versus Mahomes winning an MVP.
Yeah. And honestly, I was thinking about this the other day, and this goes back to the 2019 Chiefs season. And really every team that I can think of, the teams that win Super Bowls are the teams that handled the most adversity. Look at 2019. They lost back-to-back games. They were, I think, 6-4 at one time, and it didn't look good. But they were fortunate enough to find a way to get it done, and they were able to handle adversity. Last year, the Bucs did not have a very good year. They lost, I think, 4 games, which that's all right. That's still a good team, but they weren't the world beaters we saw in the Super Bowl. They handled adversity. They lost. The Chiefs really didn't handle very much adversity last year. I mean, they were mostly healthy. They ran through the regular season. They did not have those losses to kind of ground you as a team and say, hey, we're going to have to get better. I mean, heck, you're coming off of a stretch where you basically won 9 games in a row. What makes you think anything has to change? But I think that, the Chiefs maybe benefited from getting off to the season with kind of a rough start because now you got that reality check so quickly on in the season that you can handle that adversity and you've got time to fix things. You've got a lot of time to fix things, but it's just going to be a question of whether they do or not.
I'm watching this Rams Seahawks game, and speaking of applying pressure,
Rams got a good defensive line.
Yeah, okay. Before we end this stream, though,
yeah,
I've been like a huge Jersey fan, Jersey nut lately. These I always just get so hyped when I see these neon green Seahawks jerseys. Like there is nothing more cooler than these just bright neon highlighter green jerseys, man.
They are cool.
So sick.
So are you like a Rams banana yellow fan then too?
I like their blue jerseys, like their blue jerseys. I like those a lot. I really like, not to change the subject, but the Chargers dark blue ones that they wore on Sunday Night Football. I think Monday Night Football. Those were really sweet too.
I like their powder blues.
Yeah, those are. Yeah, I wish they'd bring back the dark helmet again.
Yeah,
that'd be sick. But
anyway, getting back on topic.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I got off. I started talking about the greatest show on turf, so obviously there is room to go off path. But how do you think this game's gonna go? We kind of talked about it a lot. What are your final predictions, and how do you think it's gonna play
out? It's gonna be tough to even predict a score, man, because I think it's either gonna be one of those I'll go 45 no 40 we'll go 42-48 Kansas City.
So we're gonna get to see like a Rams Chiefs kind of game then.
I think so. I think there's even a chance you break 50. I think it's if they truly are dicing up this defense, Mahomes has to keep up and they have to keep pumping plays out that are going to do that. I think, man, if that's the case too, like Tyreek's going off, I bet Gordon potentially scores one. Like
if the Chiefs score 50 points, Gordon's going to have a touchdown. Hill might have a couple. Kelsey's, good God, he's going to have a game. but we can see that. I mean, Mahomes might throw for 6, like legitimately.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to see. I think the way that I'm leaning towards this game right now, I'm around the same. And honestly, I could see the Bills winning this game like 45-40. But I think I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are gonna win like 42-35, I'll say. But I would not be surprised if both teams put up 45. Like genuinely, because like both these offenses are so good. And we're gonna have to see. I think whichever team's defense makes more stops will win this game, or it could be an instance in which whatever team gets the ball last, they win it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope it's the Chiefs, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. So with that being said, guys, it has been a fun night recapping and previewing this game. But Lucas, where can people find you?
The Beat of KC on Twitter. That's gonna be my number one engagement with you guys. Most of my content rolls out on the Beat of Kansas City, the YouTube channel. You guys can get all my predictions, matchups for not only the Kansas City Chiefs but for the entire NFL. And then a lot of my writing and everything I've been doing as of late is over at the SIA Networks, Say It Again Network. I also do a podcast over there with Jacob Milham where we do a Royals rundown.
Shout out Jacob.
For sure. So really got a lot going. And yeah, that's where you guys can communicate with me.
And for me, you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter's KC Sports Report, and then Instagram's KC_Sports Report. I will say, kind of teasing the new website. It's in the works. That should be up not too long in the future, but with web developers, you never know. But that should be in the works. You can check out my work on KC Kingdom. I just posted a Jalen Smith article, but he's gone. So I'll be trying to do something more with that. But yeah, honestly, I think we'll be back here Sunday. Maybe not Sunday night because
Sunday Night Football.
That's going to be a late one. But maybe we'll come back on Monday to talk about this game with all three of us.
Yeah, I think that should be something we should put in the works.
All right. So, guys, with that being said, I appreciate you stopping by. Click that like button on your way out. Go subscribe to Lucas and enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. Go Chiefs.